India's high-profile claim that the remains of China's PL-15E missiles will be transferred to Japan for joint research. Can it really crack the secrets of China's cutting-edge missiles? This play, carefully directed by the Indian media, on the surface is like a treasure, happy, but in fact everywhere reveals the pale logic and purpose of impure. The Indian side chose Japan as a priority research partner and claimed that this move could help Japan find the soft underbelly of J-10, J-16, and even J-20, and influence the direction of potential conflicts. And its exaggerated rhetoric in the Indian military industry has always been using the topic to play up. The exaggerated rhetoric in the Indian military industry has always been play on the theme of the pompous style of the same, more like deliberately create a momentum of bravado. Deeper look, this is India is trying to pass a technical diplomacy show. In the United States, Japan, India and Australia, quadrilateral security dialogue, framework to strengthen the military ties with Japan, for their own in the regional game to add chips. However, this kind of cooperation built on the illusory technological treasure, its foundation is shaky from the beginning. The detailed examination of its rhetoric is full of contradictions and difficult to justify. If this pile of wreckage really contains subversive value, how can India not strictly confidential to be sold, but instead of drums and drums to make it known to the world? Modern advanced air-to-air missiles are generally equipped with highly efficient self-destruction devices, and once the mission fails or is intercepted, the core components will instantly be reduced to pieces. Pictures circulating on the internet and the Indian side of the information also confirms that the wreckage in its hands is fragmented, the integrity is extremely low. The logic of the Indian side is even more absurd. If the wreckage is really valuable, it means that the self-destruction device is not working. But if the self-destruction device is damaged, how can the key component survive? This itself is a dead end that cannot be solved. Indian media claimed on the one hand that PL-15E technology lags behind its PPT magic bullet, Astra Mk2, Mk3, so generously shared, on the other hand, but also let it slip that from it dug up a technological mine, far-reaching significance to the Sino-Indian conflict. This kind of talk is just to cover up two fatal questions. If PL-15E is really bad, why would countries flock to cooperate? If it is advanced enough, how to cover up the fact that Indian warplanes have been shot down? This kind of desperately trying to whitewash the loss of air combat, but also want to use the wreckage of the hype of the struggle, and ultimately trap themselves in the quagmire of self-contradiction. Historical experience has long proved that relying on picking up battlefield debris to obtain the opponent's core secrets, in the contemporary conditions of high-tech warfare, its effect is minimal. As far as the Soviet Union during the Cold War to obtain the US Rattlesnake missile debris, as close as certain forces to obtain the Tomahawk cruise missile fragments, have failed to really realize the subversive breakthrough in technology, more psychological comfort. What's more, the actual performance of India's military-industrial system, its can't see PL-15E argument is even more comical. India's own military projects have been repeatedly postponed. Cost overruns can be stabilized and formed. A reliable combat capability of domestic equipment is rare. Glory fighter aircraft after decades of trials and tribulations are still plagued with problems. Arjun tanks have become an expensive parade furnishings. Akash anti-aircraft missiles have been criticized for their performance, and high hopes for the Astra series of air-to-air missiles, the Mk1 version of the long test before reluctantly in service, the Mk2 and Mk3 versions, which are claimed to have superior performance, are still in the design drawings and promotional videos, far from actual deployment. With such a weak R&D foundation to belittle a battle-tested performance has been international attention, and in Pakistan and other countries in the Air Force to form combat effectiveness of foreign trade missiles, but cannot raise the price, but rather their own technical shortcomings exposed more thoroughly, so that the outside world of the real level of military engineering suspicions. India's military-industrial system lacks is persistent precision engineering deposits, strict quality control management and efficient project execution. These soft power by no means rely on picking up a few pieces of wreckage, can make up. Even if Japan's technological strength is far more than India, expect from the PL-15E wreckage, crack China's core secrets, but also difficult to reach the sky. This is exactly the key backhand laid by the Chinese side. The Chinese side has laid down a key backhand. The PL-15E, as an export-oriented model, has been designed to prevent leakage of secrets from the very beginning. The self-destruct mechanism of modern air-to-air missiles is not for show, and its trigger logic is tightly controlled to ensure that the most valuable parts of the missile, such as the navigation computer, fuses, and the engine fuel control unit are completely destroyed before the missile crashes. Even if bits and pieces remain, they are like scattered pieces of a puzzle, with the most critical pieces missing, and reverse engineering to restore the real performance is purely a pipe dream. With Japan's technical capabilities, it may be able to analyze some of the material composition, rough structural layout or basic circuit design from the wreckage, but this is still 100,000 miles away from cracking the missile's guidance logic, anti-jamming algorithms, engine propulsion efficiency and other core secrets. This is like trying to reverse the engine's combustion control code, and transmission shift logic through a few pieces of automobile shell fragments is as impractical. Arms export itself means being scrutinized by international customers and potential adversaries. China dares to push the PL-15E to the international market. Its bottom line is derived from the close protection of its own core technology and confidence in the competitiveness of the product, the real killer app technology, such as the top anti-jamming data link, the most advanced guidance algorithms, the real killer app technologies, such as the top anti-jamming data chain, the most advanced guidance algorithms, the unique engine propulsion control logic, are always locked in the self-use model, or through the tight physical isolation and encryption means, to ensure that it is impossible to be spied from the wreckage of foreign trade products. The foreign trade version shows only the tip of the iceberg, the product of a precise balance between performance and secrecy. China has constructed multiple lines of defense in the design phase of exported weapons systems, hardware, where key chips may use custom packaging, or even physical self-destruct layers. Software, where core algorithms are solidified in encrypted processors that are unreadable from the outside, and system architecture, where modular isolation is used, making it difficult to understand the overall interaction logic even if parts are accessed. These design philosophies and engineering practices are the survival wisdom honed by the Chinese military industry in the harsh international environment over the past decades. PL-15E, as an important part of China's air warfare system, has a generation-level technological divide between its foreign trade version and its own version, a generation gap that can never be crossed by reversing a few pieces of debris. Deeper look. The wreckage transfer incident exposed the strategic miscalculation of India and Japan under the technical anxiety. India is trying to use technology sharing to enhance its value in the eyes of the US-Japanese alliance and divert domestic attention from its own military-industrial incompetence, while Japan hopes to seize any possible opportunity to spy on China's rapidly advancing military technology in order to alleviate its concerns about the PLA's leap in air combat capability. However, this kind of cooperation based on technological fantasy is destined to be difficult to bear substantial fruit. Japan Air Self-Defense Force equipped with US-made missile system and PL-15E design ideas. There is a fundamental difference in technology. Fragmented information is difficult to integrate into its existing combat system. More critically, modern air warfare is a system confrontation. The performance parameters of a single weapon in a highly networked, information-based combat environment, its value is relative. The Chinese Air Force relies on the Air Marshal series of early warning aircraft, advanced data chain and strong electronic warfare capabilities to build a complete kill chain, which is the cornerstone of the Thunderbolt series of missiles, to give play to their power. Analyzing a weapon in isolation from the system is like looking at a leopard through a tube. Even if the Japanese side spends a lot of money, barely from the wreckage to obtain a trace of information, China's military research and development wheels have long been rolling forward. The next generation of more advanced air combat weapons may be close to maturity. The essence of technological superiority is a dynamic and continuous capacity for innovation, not a static dissection of yesterday's products. Therefore, I am afraid that the actual research value of the so-called wreckage handed over by India in a fuss is much lower than the public opinion bubble it has created.